Namaskar, myself Jyoti Yadav. I am a landscape architect pursuing PhD from MNIT Jaipur. I welcome you to the module on site planning principles for hospitals, orientation of the buildings, terrain and climatological considerations. In this module, we will be covering what is a site, what is site planning, various layers of site planning principles for hospitals, process of site planning, site design on hilly terrain, and climatological considerations. Now, before understanding what is a site planning, we must understand what is a site. Any location which has been selected for the study or development is known as a site. Each site is unique and has its own special characteristics related to its particular location, topography, vegetation, biodiversity, and groundwater regime. What is site planning? Site planning is the art of arranging structures on the land and to shaping the spaces between to fit a program for its development, which is efficient, expresses the character of the site and provides attractive spaces to use. What are the various layers of site planning? First and most is the mass and space, which includes building and other open spaces around. The second one is zoning and functions, which includes the program and various activities. The third one is circulation, which includes the vehicular movement and pedestrian movement. The fourth one is the natural elements, which includes the water body, trees and other earth forms. And the last one is services and maintenance such as STP, electrical services, etc. Now we'll understand the site planning principles specific to the hospitals. Built form must follow the functions. Protection from unwanted and unnecessary disturbances should be provided. Separation of dissimilar activities. All the departments should be properly connected. Design should minimize the energy consumption. Hierarchy of spaces should be there. Universal accessibility should be provided. Climate responsiveness should be considered in the design. Indoor and outdoor relationship should be considered while designing. Visual connectivity must be provided in the design. Now coming to the site planning process. The process of site planning can be summarized into 5 steps. The first and foremost is site inventory and analysis. The second one is SWOT analysis. Third is synthesis leading to diagrammatic schemes. The fourth one is program allocation and spatial organization. The fifth is the site design and preparation of site plan. Now, what is site analysis? It is a primary step to site planning. It is an inventory created as a preparatory step to site planning. It involves research, analysis and synthesis of the information collected from various sources. Primarily, it deals with the data related to a specific site. It forms the essential foundation for a cost-effective, environmentally sensitive and rational approach to the project development. In order to understand any site, we must consider the 3 major parameters of a site. The first is context, the second is site and the third is user. The first and foremost is the context. In order to understand the context, we have to understand the context and the relationship with the site. The first point is climatic conditions, which includes rainfall, temperature, humidity, sun and wind path. The second one is environmental quality, which includes air quality, water quality, social environment. And the third is connectivity, which includes connectivity with various transport modes and the connectivity with other supporting facilities such as petrol pump and other related facilities. The fourth one is visual analysis. It includes the identification of various visual features in positive and negative in nature. The fifth one is sensorial analysis, which includes the identification of certain features which have certain kind of noise or smell. If we talk about noise, then the nearby factories can be one of the major element of the noise and the dump yard nearby can be one of the major element of the smell. Now coming to the site. In order to understand the site, we have to understand the 5 parameters of the site. The first one is history of the site. The second one is legal aspect. The third one is natural aspect. The fourth one is visual aspect. And the fifth one is sensorial aspect. The first point in the process of understanding the site is the history of the site, which includes natural history and the cultural history of the site. The second is legal aspect, which includes ownership and the building regulation and bylaws. The third point is natural aspect, which includes geology, topography, hydrology and vegetation. Geology includes the soil type, bearing capacity, depth of the hard rock, and the topography includes relief maps, slope analysis and identifying the buildable slope for the building. Hydrology, it includes drainage pattern, water quality and groundwater table. The fourth is vegetation, which includes the identification of various kind of vegetation such as plants, trees and other flora fauna, and ultimately identifying the habitable and non-habitable trees and plants to retain or cutting down for various purposes. The fourth one is visual aspect. Visual aspect is considered to identify the various key views from the site and key views within the site. It also includes the potential views which can be developed through the site design. The last is sensorial aspect. We have to identify the various elements produces noise and smell. The third part of site analysis is understanding the user group. In order to understand the users, we have to understand socio-economic condition of the users and the cultural profile of the users. The socio-economic condition includes income group, serving radius or catchment area, health profile of the region, and the culture includes the cultural values and beliefs. Now coming to the site inventory. Site inventory is the objective recording of the site data. It includes physical characteristics of the features and the context, property lines, setback lines, site orientation and entries, man-made features, topographical features, soil characteristics, drainage pattern, water bodies, vegetation, views from and within the site, and other pertaining factors related to the site. Now, interpretation of this data and the addition of subjective evaluation constitutes a site analysis. Coming to the site synthesis, it is a process of synthesizing the gathered data from various sources. It involves overlapping of various maps, identification of buildable areas, identification of important features to retain such as existing buildings, water streams and vegetation. It guides towards design decision and space allocation. From synthesizing the above data which we have prepared an inventory, we can develop some kind of sketches such as bubble and flow diagram to understand the various functional relationship within the site and to provide hierarchy of spaces within the site. We can also develop some conceptual sketches of buildings and other spaces based on the guiding decisions obtained from the site analysis and synthesis. Now the next step is SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is the identification of various strength, weakness, opportunity and threats of a particular site. After identifying the strength, weaknesses and opportunities, we can develop concept zoning and draft site layout to distribute various functions and program within the site and develop the relationship between the various built and open spaces. The various elements that we have to plan for in the site planning, such as site entrance and exit areas, which includes car access, pedestrian access, emergency access and drop-off points, parking, surface parking and underground parking, buildings, main building and service buildings, roads, main roads, service roads and fire paths, pedestrian pathways, site services. It includes electrical substation, sewage treatment plant, stormwater drainage and hospital services. Transportation, it includes public transport and private cars. Landscape, it includes softscape, hardscape and other outdoor furnitures. Now coming to the site plan. What is a site plan? Site plan is a two-dimensional drawing representing all the existing and proposed features of the site. Now we have to understand what are the information that is required to prepare a site plan. The first one is site boundary, site entry and exit, parking, road and pathways, grading of existing and proposed geographical features, landscape elements, building terrace or roof plan, services, and the most important is area statement, which includes the ground coverage, built up area, FAR, number of parking, open area and green area. It is a reference site plan that we are showing. It is a site plan of JA Hospital campus at Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. It is a competition entry by eminent architect. Please refer to the site plan on the screen, which shows the various spaces, built form and the outdoor spaces, landscape areas, connecting roads, etc. Now coming to the site planning on hilly region. While working on hilly region, the topography or the terrain is the very major factor of the site planning. It is important to understand the nature and characteristics of the slope while working on undulating terrain or hilly region. Now we'll understand the various slopes, their nature and characteristics and possible uses. The slopes can be categorized into 6 categories. The first is less than 0.8%, which is 1 in 125. They are considered as a flat. They are suitable for development, but they do not drain well. Slopes above 0.8%, which is 1 in 125 to 1 in 100. They are almost flat, most suitable for the development and have positive drainage. The third category is above 1% to 3%, which are 1 in 100 to 1 in 133. They are considered as a gently sloping. These are suitable for the buildings with moderate grading, which means we have to grade the terrain for the storm water management. The fourth category is 3% to 15%. These are mild slopes, not very suitable for the building, but can be built in hilly areas with major grading and retaining walls. The fifth category is above 15% to 25%, which is 1 in 6 to 1 in 4. These are relatively steep slopes, not suitable for building development. If no other alternative exists, then we can build on these slopes. Sixth category is 25% and above. These are less than 1 in 4. These are highly steep slopes and we should avoid building on these slopes. And if we are building on these slopes, we have to consider the erosion control measures. Now we have to understand various points to consider while site grading. We should try to achieve balance between cut and fill. We should always prefer cut over fill for the building placement. Building should be placed on the higher places. Retain major streams to avoid waterlogging. Now we'll understand the slope requirement for various land uses. You can refer to the slide on screen and you can also look into the reference material that we are providing and understand the various land uses, their maximum slope, minimum slope and the optimum slope which is required. Now coming to the climatology. Climatology in the building or site planning is all about understanding the sun and light, wind patterns and the rain. We have to understand the various climatic zones in India. Working on any site is required to understand the climatic condition of a site in which it is located. Climates in India can be generally classified into 4 types: cold climate, temperate climate, hot and arid climate, hot and humid climate. Each site should be investigated in terms of solar orientation for the buildings, the best facing slopes, wind flows or for breezes. Nowadays, hospital environments are highly controlled and mechanically driven, but thermal comfort in any building depends on the proportion of sun, wind and light that it receives. Now we'll understand the solar orientation for the building. We all know that sun is the source of heat and light, but strategically placed building can minimize the heat gain and reduce the cooling load over the building. Natural light will have positive influence in the hospitals and can also reduce the lighting load. The second, we'll understand the best facing slopes based on the slope orientation. The temperature varies with the elevation by about 3 degrees for every 300 meters in daytime. So we have to consider the height aspect of a site. The angle of the slope is also important, as the more perpendicular a slope is to the rays of the sun, the warmer the surface temperature will be. Now coming to the wind flows. As you can see in the screen, Abrupt form cause unpleasant and air turbulence. Smooth forms induce smooth flow of air. In this slide, you can see that orientation of a building and impact of a air based on their form and angle. Please refer to the reference material that we are providing for the further details. Now we will understand the uses of trees in site planning. It can provide windbreaks for the buildings and the open spaces. It can block or filter the sunlight, lower the air temperature. The temperature within the site can be lowered by 10 to 20 degrees within the site. I hope you have understood this module very well. The site planning, their principles and the elements. Please go through the reference material and the e-text which we are providing for your reference. Also go through the further readings for your further knowledge. All the very best and thank you.